Hello everyone, TLSG here, back again with another Marvel Snap video. So today we are able to pull another mystery card, courtesy of the season pass and hitting rank 80. We were able to just barely get to the next card. So before I pulled the card, I want to remind you guys that we are going to be doing a live stream at 8 a.m. Central Standard Time over at twitch.tv/TLSG Snap. So if you guys want to stop by and check it out, please do. If not, there will be a video on demand and potentially a stream highlight over here on the YouTube channel. And hopefully, if everything goes well, we can rein in 1,000 subs live on air. If not, we'll hit it in the next couple of days afterwards, but I did want to go ahead and stream. All right, with that being said, let's go ahead and pull our mystery card for today. We get Death. So Death is an interesting one. Initially, it has 9 costs, so it feels like it could be bad, but costs 1 less for each card destroyed this game. So then you think of a destruction deck, maybe something with the Destroyer, but there is a particular combo that I am a fan of. So a combo that runs bare minimum destruction. So you destroy about 3 cards, and then you run Wave on turn 5. You can then drop this for a very large discount on turn 6, the turn following Wave. So you can do some cool things with like Moon Girl to drop 2 of these, or just drop this alongside another 6 drop to make some pretty major swings, and it's really hard to anticipate. So I'm going to jump over and build something. All right, so we just finished drafting our deck. We are calling this deck Cheating Death. The main premise of this deck is that you want to get your death discounted by 2. That way on turn 6, if you have dropped Wave or Odin, you can play Death along with a 6 power card. That way you can pump out a lot more power than the opponent can. So running through the list really quickly, for our fodder, we have the Hood, which is going to be a card that we want to target with Carnage to destroy and count towards that death total for Death. We also have Yondu. Yondu, on reveal, remove the top card from your opponent's deck. Apparently this counts towards Death's death toll right now. I've read that it was a bug, but as of right now, whenever Yondu removes a card from the top of your opponent's deck, it counts towards Death's death total. So it will reduce Death's cost by 1. And then we have Angel, who is in this deck list mainly as a deck thinner. So if we draw him, it's okay. But if we are able to cheat him out of the deck, then we have a much more reliable chance of drawing our Wave, our Odin, and our Death like we want to. Next up, we have Bucky Barnes. Bucky Barnes is going to be another target for either Carnage or Deathlock, in that it will turn into the Winter Soldier when it's destroyed. And then we have Carnage, everybody's favorite card from the Nova days. And then we have Wave. Wave is going to be really important in this deck. With all of the Zoo decks that we've been seeing, Wave is going to be a direct counter to those Swarm type decks. And at the same time, we're going to be able to cheat out additional 6 power cards to really swing that advantage in our favor whenever we drop this on turn 4, and then Odin on 5, and then double 6 cost on 6, or however we end up drawing that combo. Deathlock is going to be one of our destruction engines. Being able to destroy cards is going to be important in getting Death to a point where we can drop 2 cards on turn 6. And then we have Jubilee. Jubilee is going to act as another deck thinner. We want to create scenarios where we can more consistently draw our combo pieces. So this deck list is going to operate largely on the fact that you're going to be able to draw Wave fairly consistently, and the only way to do that is by cheating out additional cards wherever you can. And so Jubilee is going to act to pull out a card from the top of your deck list. The majority of the time, it is going to pull Chavez, unless Chavez got either stolen with Cable or destroyed by Yondu. A large percentage of the time, Jubilee will target your Chavez. Odin is going to act to reactivate on reveal abilities. Magneto just being a large, powerful 6 cost card with a potentially very powerful disrupt mechanism. So something like a Storm Juggernaut lane. You can play this into another lane as long as it has room. You're going to pull both Storm and Juggernaut from the opponent's lane, and it could really swing that location that's already been locked down. So a lot of cool uses for Magneto in this. And then our new card being Death. So Death cost 1 less for each card that's destroyed. Typically, at a 9 cost, you would have to destroy quite a few cards to make this viable. But with Wave, and the way that it interacts with Wave, we're going to be literally cheating death out onto the board. So that is the deck list. We are going to go ahead and jump in and play some games. First up, we have AKA, and we do draw into our Angel, unfortunately, but we also draw into our Bucky Barnes. So New York being on turn 6, you can move cards to this location. We're going to go ahead and drop Angel into an unknown location and then see what pops up. So the Gila popped up, and now we can do Bucky Barnes. I was going to kind of separate these two out. That way I can just target Bucky Barnes with Deathlock. With Carnage, I would ideally have both of them. That way you can get some additional upside in Carnage getting buffed up. But I think I'm just going to drop Deathlock. I'm just going to go with that normal regular pattern. And so we'll drop Deathlock here. And then we'll probably drop Jubilee into Asgard to try to get the additional cards. And so, of course, our Deathlock is going to destroy Bucky Barnes and bring out the Winter Soldier. So for a pretty large lane. So we are going to drop Jubilee. Most likely it will draw Chavez. If we are able to draw the additional cards from Asgard, that would be perfect. That would add into the deck thinning that we need. That would probably give us the additional pieces to our combo. And at this point, we've destroyed 1 card. If we are able to get Wave and Yondu, we'd be able to drop both of those next turn to finish off our death mechanic. And so they did do a double buff. So getting Wave here is going to be very, very important. So hopefully we draw it here. We didn't draw Wave, unfortunately. So they are going to get an additional turn. In deck, Wave is at the bottom. So in deck, we still have 1 card, one card only. So we're going to go ahead and I guess drop Yondu here. And I want to drop the Hood and Carnage, but I just don't. I want to have Wave for this last. No, it doesn't matter. So Wave it's going to be the very last turn next turn. So we are going to go ahead. Let's go ahead and undo. We're going to do all of our cards here to reduce death sum. But unfortunately, without having Wave active, it's going to be a little bit awkward. So let's go ahead and destroy all of these cards. We're going to get a really cheap demon, 6-power demon. And so Yondu did still reduce death's cost by 1. And then we're going to get an additional 3 in our Carnage trigger. So not terrible. Without a Wave, we're still going to be able to drop Death and 1 additional card. So Death and Demon to try and swing these lanes. But with them being that's tough. It's really, really tough. So with them being a really wide deck, do we ever do something like this and then just pull them over with Magneto and not even worry about death? Because we could try to potentially drag in. So it's 3 and 4 cost cards, which actually these are 2 cost cards. Do we ever do something like this? And then this would pump out quite a bit of power and could potentially be competitive versus what they have. I think we let it play out. I don't think we have a great play line just because we never drew into our Wave. And that being a really big component of stopping the opponent from doing their combos and doing what they want. And so they have Elektra, which, so unfortunate. Targets our Demon. And depending on what this last drop is, it's Ant-Man. So that is going to push them. Is it 19? Is it only 19? Oh my gosh, that is so very, very close. But with how much power we were able to push out in our Carnage and our Death, we didn't need the 1-cost Demon, apparently. Very, very lucky that they were not able to pump out just a little bit more power, or that they didn't like split up their Their power is just a little bit more, but we were luckily able to take that first win without the wave component of this combo. So let's keep going, see what we can do. For game 2, we do have wave right off the bat, so that's a good sign. We're gonna go ahead and drop. Well, let's drop the hood into the unknown location. We are going to get the 6 power 1 cost demon since we don't have a destruction mechanism in our hand just yet. And then we draw into a destruction mechanism. I didn't want to go all in and basically bet that we were going to have one by turn 4. So I think there's still value in stacking up Bucky Barnes here and getting the double destruction. With our Deathlock on turn 3, we do draw into Angel, so that's not going to help us thin our deck any. But on turn 4, we will be able to drop both the Demon and Wave, and we're going to have a strong mid-lane contest in Monster Metropolis. And so then maybe if we're able to sneak Asgard away with our 1 cost and our Wave, maybe we'll be able to draw into our Odin to keep the combo going. At least that's the hope. That's the idea. And then we do have a really strong mid lane already in the buffed up Winter Soldier being a 6 power card. If Strong Guy gets his buff, then it will push that up over ours and we'll lose our +3. But right now what we're worried about is being able to cheat out Death. In Death alone. So we do pump out 9 power here. They tie us for 9 power, but their Maximus actually gives us the same benefit that we would have gotten from winning Asgard anyways. So let's go ahead and drop Odin. We are not going to draw into our Death here, which is unfortunate, but I think we are winning this location by a wide enough margin, and they have so many cards. By locking them down to just 1 card this turn and next turn, I think it's really going to disrupt what they're capable of. They're not really going to be able to. It's not bad. As far as moves go, that's not bad. That actually kind of worries me. So I think what we do is we drop our Magneto, and that way it will pull their Maximus in and over. That's going to swing this lane for us because they're going to be able to drop something like a Chavez if they have it, or some big 6 power minion here, and that's going to swing this lane because we have to remember that it's going to take my additional 3 from being the highest power card at Monster Metropolis right now. It's going to take that away and give that to them. So they'll be able to swing this lane. But if I'm able to pull Maximus over and win this lane, that will be the trigger that we need. And if I was playing on my own, I would snap at this point, but I am just going to let it play out. Oh, they played in the right side. How interesting. So we pull Maximus over, and that is going to give us the power that we need in the left and mid lane. So I'm guessing they are running a version of the deck that doesn't have Chavez, or they just opted to not run it because they thought it would push one of these other lanes over. I'm not sure, but we were able to snag out the win, and right now we are 2 for 2. All right, so unfortunately we don't draw into any of our 1 cost cards, and I don't think we've drawn into Yondu on turn 1 yet. So I think we drop Bucky Barnes into the Embassy. We hope that we draw into a destruction mechanism. If not, it's okay. And so then we get the cloning vats. We're going to be able to get our deck thinned by Carnage here. I think at that point, next turn we will drop Wave. Hopefully Wave and Yondu if we can draw into them. If not, I think we'll make do as is. But ideally a Wave and Yondu to get that additional trigger on Death. Then we'll drop Odin, followed by, we do get the upside here. So we're gonna do the Wave, and we're gonna do Yondu here, and we're gonna leave a spot open in each of our lanes because we're gonna want to drop quite a bit of power pretty quickly. And so I'm gonna go ahead and snap. I think whenever we have the Wave, Odin, Death combo in hand, I think it's powerful enough that we can anticipate that we're going to be able to outpower our opponent no matter what it is that they have. Because dropping 24 power across 2 lanes is just so strong. And we get their Iron Man, so that's a very, very good card for us to have grabbed. And they have a Nakia, but luckily we have the never-ending wave buff. And so by pushing our advantage, by dropping wave, they realize that we are going to just keep locking them down to 1 card a turn. And so I don't know that they knew the extent of how good our advantage was going to be. But nonetheless, we were able to press the advantage and get some cubes. So on turn 1, we drew into Olympia, which then, of course, thins our deck like we want. We now have our Death, our Odin. We just don't have wave. And we have a destruction mechanic or destruction engine in Deathlock, but we're not going to be able to drop that until turn 3. So I am just going to go ahead and drop the Hood, which will generate our 1 power or 1 cost demon. And then do we ever maybe just drop Angel into Hala now that we drew it and hope that it gets destroyed? If it doesn't, we have additional power there already. Nah, we're just going to drop it into Olympia as well. I don't think the 2 power is going to make that much of a game changer or much of a difference. So I'm going to drop it into Olympia, and then we're going to destroy them both. Do I ever destroy all 3? I might. Let's drop the demon into Hala. We can. That feels risky. I'm just going to drop the demon into Strange Academy so we don't have to worry about it getting destroyed in Hala if we get outplayed or out-resourced there, especially knowing that we want to destroy these cards this turn. So then we do have our wave. So we're going to be able to destroy these cards, wave next turn. And so I'm going to go ahead and snap. We're going to be able to destroy these, wave next turn, and then we'll be able to drop both Death and Magneto, Death and Odin, Death and whatever we want for turn 6. And so hopefully they don't invest too many resources on turn 5, and we can kind of surprise them with how much power we're able to pump out. So they drop an Electra, not world-ending, not game-changing. It's okay. 6 is a lot of power, but it's always going to be a really high priority target for the Electras in this current metagame. So I'm going to drop our Carnage and our Wave into this location just so that we can get a little bit of extra power out on the board. It's going to send them off into other locations, but that is going to give us a decent amount of information. So maybe all of their cards will get stacked over here, and they're left with just an Electra in Strange Academy. And so they have pretty good resources in Hala. So we have pretty good resources here. We did drop waves, so they're only able to drop 1 thing. So I don't think I want to drop Magneto, because Magneto could potentially pull their Devil Dino, and that would definitely be a feel bad moment. So maybe we just drop our Chavez here and then our Death here. So our Death in Strange Academy, just because I anticipate that being the location they would target with their 6 cost card if they have one. And they were running something like a Devil Dinosaur, so I wouldn't put it past them having something like that. Now, if they have a Giganto that they drop over here, that's a little bit harder to anticipate, but I think we still should be able to make up the 4 difference between Chavez and Giganto in the lead that we already have. And so we're going to lock in with this as is. They drop Chavez, but our Death is stronger than their Chavez, so we are able to pull out that victory. So the extra power for Death is going to be pretty sneaky. So it's not something that is ran incredibly common, or it's not a card that is incredibly common to be ran intentionally. And so at that point, they may just be thinking that it is a standard like control type deck, and then we sneak out 12 power in Death. And so even if they had a Hulk or a Magneto, that's going to pull some of our cards over, and we'd be able to still outpower them. So It feels pretty good, especially with Asgard being a common location, with Angel being able to help thin out our deck, and then Jubilee hasn't really seen much play, but she's there as kind of she's just a support on the back burner in case we need to thin our deck further. So next up, we have Carnage and Death in our starting hand. We have our Odin, but we don't have a card to play. We have still very rarely seen Yondu. In the 8 or so games that we've played, the Hood has been very common, and Shadowland not being a bad location for us to trigger there, because we're going to get an additional destruction out of Carnage because of that. And so they drop Wolverine, so they are running a destruction deck as well, because, I mean, we could tell because of Deadpool. It's just, are we able to out-destroy their destruction? So I think we're going to drop Carnage this turn. We're going to drop Demon probably into Baxter Building this turn. And then next turn we're going to do Wave, and then Odin, and then Death Chavez, Death Magneto, just to slow down them being able to play Deadpool, because what they're going to want is to destroy Deadpool over and over and over again. And if they can only drop 4 more cards or so, it's going to be very difficult for them to get him up to the point where he is worthwhile. And so we are actually going to be able to drop our Yondu as well. And so I think we drop him in the left. I don't know that it necessarily changes much. But we're going to drop him in the left. We're going to drop Wave on the far right, and that is going to set up our combo. They're going to have a really hard time playing. So we get their Killmonger, which doesn't target too many of our cards, but it is one of the destruction mechanisms for Deadpool here. And they're setting up a pretty large destruction, but of course we set up Wave, and then we could drop Death this turn if we wanted to. I don't think we want to at this point. I think we keep it a secret just in case. Actually, we're going to be able to sneak it out for free next turn, because I anticipate them destroying one of these 2 lanes. Either way, it's going to result in the same. We're going to get an additional card out. We're not going to be able to reduce it to the point where it really makes that much of a difference, because we are still going with the slow down method, the disruption method of not letting them drop very many cards. So I am going to go ahead and snap. They will probably retreat here. If I was running a destruction deck and I needed to get my Deadpool as large as possible, and I knew that a wave was being ran, I would probably back out. But they do opt to at least make it one more round. Maybe when they realize that we re-trigger wave, they'll realize how difficult that is going to be. And they just cap it out with an Iron Man. It's interesting. And of course, we're able to move cards around. So they could move a card out of here and drop it. They could move the negative ninja out and drop a big card here. So I think we invest resources here. And do we invest it in a lane we've already won, or do we invest it here? So they can only drop 1 more card. So even if they get one of these lanes to a point, so they move cards over and then they drop a big unit here, as long as we still win this one, I think we're fine. I think this is what we do. I think we split our power kind of evenly across the board. I think they worked it through, and they weren't able to find a way that they felt comfortable winning. So only being able to drop 1 card, they would have to swing 2 lanes. That's really difficult when you're just shifting cards over, knowing that I would be able to shift cards and play over there as well. So far, this deck has been performing very well. I've been very satisfied with how well this is performing. So I'm going to drop the Hood into Monster Metropolis. We're going to follow with Bucky Barnes, and then tying it all up with our Deathlock. If we're able to avoid drawing Angel in this next turn, we're going to be able to thin our deck out just a little bit. But we do have our Wave, so it's not the end of the world if we aren't able to, and we are, so perfect. So we're going to drop our Deathlock here. Next turn, I think we just operate under the impression that we are going to be able to draw into our Odin combo. If not, it's okay. Maybe we drop Jubilee in the wave lane. So we draw into death. And so we're definitely going to be able to trigger death. It's just a matter of how do we make that happen most optimally. And so at this point, we actually don't need to destroy one of their cards. So I don't think, because we destroyed 2 cards in this far left lane. So I think what we do is we go ahead and we drop our demon. I think we put forth an effort to be competitive in this lane. And then we drop our wave. That's going to slow them down substantially. If we can draw into our Odin here, it's going to be, it'll be really, really good. We'll have a lot of upside in that. If not, we'll need to kind of assess what tools we have and what we can do. And so Iceman is going to slow us down by 1 card, but I think the way wave interacts, it just goes back down to what it was anyways. And we could almost cheat out 2 cards. It's unfortunate. So what if we drop our Jubilee here, know that it's either going to pull an Odin, a Chavez, or a Magneto. Those are our last 3 cards in our deck. So no matter what it pulls, even if Chavez was the last card on the bottom of our deck, whatever it pulls here is going to be okay, and it's going to feel pretty decent. So I think we drop our Jubilee here. Even though we could pull drop a 6 cost card, I think we just go with the regular old 4 cost card instead. And so unfortunately we didn't get the Odin to kind of disrupt what they're wanting to do. So this is going to pull 3 or 4 cost cards, and so we could pull the Bishop over. We're not even able to play. We're not even able to play death. Oh, it feels so bad. Okay, so right now we're winning 2 lanes. We're not winning this one by much though. So maybe, and I anticipate them dropping at least 1 card there. So maybe we drop Magneto here. We hope that it pulls their Khazar over if they don't cap this one out, so that we can keep this lane a victory. I think they have a pretty good shot here because we weren't able to get the second piece of we weren't able to get the second trigger of wave. I think they have a pretty good shot here because they have this whole turn to dump as much of their hand as possible, and that deck list really shines in that regard. And so they drop the White Queen. They are going to be able to take that mid lane, but they didn't drop any resources in the right hand side, surprisingly enough. So they would have had to swing 2 lanes, and had they dropped Nightcrawler here, they would have gotten it. So maybe they were anticipating that we would anticipate that they would drop resources here, and so they were playing off of that. I'm not sure, but we snuck out with a win, but it wasn't. It didn't feel like a game we should have won. So we cheated death again. So the first location being Wakanda Embassy, and we had death and Odin in hand, so we got a pretty good upside out of Wakanda, the Wakandan Embassy. So I think we drop our Bucky Barnes. Next turn we'll do both our Angel and our Carnage to get the double destruction. That way if we draw into wave, perfect, we'll be able to trigger death and a 6 cost card, because all we need to do is destroy 2 cards over the course of the game. And we pull in our Odin, which doesn't feel great, but it's not terrible either. They get a 1 cost card and we get a 6. And it is a Space Throne, so they are locked out. We're going to go ahead and snap off of that, because that means we locked down this location, and there's not anything that they can do to change it. And so if they don't retreat here, I'd be a little surprised. And then if we can win Asgard, we'll get the card advantage. I just don't see how they're going to be able to swing both of these lanes when we can drop so many powerful resources into one or the other. So they're gonna stick it out and try. I have to commend them for that. So we're gonna drop the hood. We're gonna drop our Deathlock to destroy the negative downside of it, and then we'll get a 1 cost upside as well. So maybe we'll draw into wave this turn. Maybe not. If we draw into wave, we'll be able to drop both wave and our demon. Okay, and so we get the upside from Asgard. So we do get wave. So we're going to be able to block them on the last turn. So what I want to do is leave at least one space in both locations. And I think we need the additional resources in the embassy right now. And then that way, if we need to, we can drop 26 power into the mid lane. Just nuts. And so I think that's what pushed them over the edge, was us getting our wave portion of the combo and then limiting them from being able to play and swarm out the board on their last turn. So with that, I am going to end the video here. We didn't get any like huge 8 cube games, but what we got was a really consistent and high performing deck. So we won so many more games so consistently than I thought we would. I thought this was going to be a deck that was going to create 8 cube games and really swing them in our favor. But I think I underestimated how much of an impact wave has on the concede rate, because as soon as the opponents knew that we had wave, we had dropped wave, and they weren't going to be able to swarm the board like they needed to make their deck run how it's intended. At that point, it's not worth playing anymore. You just rinse, repeat. And we were able to capitalize on that several times throughout this video. We played like 20 something games, climbed up to 82 at one point. We lost a couple of 8 cube games just to our hubris. We made some silly mistakes, like one of the games I activated Odin on a wave lane, but that wave lane also had Carnage, and so then Carnage ate our entire lane, losing us the game. So just some silly mistakes like that, which led to some big cube losses. But overall, outside of my personal mistakes, this deck has performed so very well. It's probably been one of the higher performing decks that I've had, at least recently, with how many people are trying to climb the ladder, and so they're playing really competitively. They're not really experimenting as much. They're wanting to play what works well. And so you're running up against a lot of higher skill or higher powered decks. And so getting win streaks is a little bit harder than once you're at 115 and everyone's kind of experimenting and just trying to find the next good thing. So overall, I'm very satisfied with this list. I think I'm actually going to run this one instead of the Swarm Breaker, instead of our large minion deck. I think this is going to be the one that I run for a while and I pilot. I think this is going to allow me to climb pretty consistently. But overall, thank you guys again so much for all of your support, all of your feedback. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This has been TLSG. Later, guys.